Religion. The gods are great, but only a fool would trust them with their life. From Borea the Bear Finder, a priest of Ursun. KISLEV is a land of many religions as well as local superstitions, having an ancestry dating back to the marauder tribes of the north, such as the Dolgans and Kazakhs. Much of KISLEVite religion revolves around the worship of foreign gods that had originated in the eastern steppes, but were brought to KISLEV by the arrival of different human tribes. Within KISLEVite religion, there are a variety of foreign and local gods that the KISLEVites worship, but perhaps the three most common and most well-known are the worships of Ursun, Daj, and Tor. Ursun is the most revered god of KISLEV, for he is considered KISLEV's principal war god and the primary god of the ancient gospodars when they still lived in their original homeland within the eastern steppes. Daj is perhaps the most structured and civilized of the pantheon, who usually represents the comforts of fire and hearth. Tor is the least well-known of the gods, as his worship is mostly associated to the elements of nature, such as lightning and thunder, rather than a god proper. Although most of KISLEV's theological concerns center on these three gods, the gods of the Empire are often welcomed in the communities of this frozen land by means of trade or religious contact. One such example is the worship of Tal and Ulrich. The border between the Empire and KISLEV is ill-defined, and equally so is the divide between their cultures. Although Ulrich and Taal were the gods of the southern tribes, their faith has spread to the north, and their attitudes and domains are a natural fit with the dour KISLEVites. Although they are not as popular as Ursun or Tor, these cults are significant in KISLEVite culture and politics. The Wise Women. The tribes of KISLEV are a superstitious folk, and those that ministrate such superstition within a settlement are known by the Ungol tribes collectively as the Wise Women. These Wise Women are an ancient tradition of magicians that still survive among the Ungol tribes, and their influence extends even to the gospodars. The Wise Women keep the oral lore of the tribes, mediate with the spirits of the steppe, and keep a vigilant eye out for the taint of chaos. Naturally, everyone hates them. That is, of course, a slight exaggeration, but nowhere are the Wise Women or the Hags actually popular. The reasons for this become clear when their activities are examined in more detail. Wise women are primarily called wise because they know much of the history of the Ungol tribes and of their dealings with the creatures of the steppes. They use this knowledge to help the tribe. In some areas, the ability to recollect such information might make them popular, but on the northern steppes of KISLEV, their knowledge consists almost entirely of past disasters and the traditions of the servants of the ruinous powers. Thus, their advice almost always consists of telling people they cannot do things that look like a good idea. That valley might look sheltered and fertile, but it was home to a cult that bound demons. Traveling south with the horses might earn a fortune, but if the Rota does not perform a particular ritual, then the ghosts of a raiding band of Kurgan will be freed to come after them, and so on. Ice Witches. Since the time the first Khan Queen came to KISLEV and conquered the lands for the Gospodar tribes, there had always been descendants of her bloodline that have the mystical ability to manipulate the powers of winter itself. These magic wielders are known by the Ungols and Gospodars alike as Ice Witches, an all-female sisterhood of powerful sorceresses that strives to protect and guard the icy magic that courses through KISLEV. To most Ice Witches, defending KISLEV is simply a means to that same end. The Ice Witches of KISLEV are more than just women with the ability to channel the ancient widow's cold flows. They are an organized sisterhood who works together to achieve shared goals. Formed over 1,000 years ago by the Khan Queens, the Ice Witches have maneuvered their way into influencing almost all matters in KISLEV. They strive to ensure almost nothing is beyond their reach. They suppress competing philosophies and magic and promote those sympathetic to their causes. Even the cults have been carefully monitored and guided through the centuries. The witches are keen to ensure no Kislevite religion ever gains the same all-encompassing power seen in other old world nations, as such supremacy often heralds the suppression of their kind. Kislevite language. The language spoken by the people of KISLEV is known as Kislevarin, and is a blend of the original Ungol and Ropsmen tongues with the addition of the languages brought by the migrating Gospodars. Over the centuries, this has become the dominant of the three languages, with the addition of some Reichsspiel words and conventions from the south. There are, of course, many different dialects within KISLEV, and the language is spoken somewhat differently in different regions of the country, though the differences between these broad dialects are slight. There is almost never any difficulty in mutual understanding, and non-Kislevarin speakers are generally unable to distinguish them without conscious effort. The regional differences correspond mainly to old tribal divisions from hundreds of years ago. The most significant of these, in terms of numbers of speakers, are Sudevarin, which is spoken in the south, Krevarin, which is spoken in the east and center of the country, and Tolvarin, which is the principal language of the north and of the tribal raiders who plague the farmers. In the stanitsas of the far north, the older tribes and families keep alive the distinctive Gorelsk dialect, said to be the unpolluted language of the Ropsmen, and they take great pride in their culture and language, which is said to be much more musical than standard Kislevarin. Some city dwellers, especially the less affluent population, also have their own distinctive dialect. An example of this is Zavarin, still spoken by some of the population of Kislev, though these city dialects are now mostly extinct due to assimilation with standard Kislevarin.